Returning on Saturday to BBC One, The Keith Harris Show.
Oh, I'm excited to watch it. You're in it. Of course you are. In fact, all your favourites. Oh, now there's Dippy. I like it. And of course there's Cuddles. Not the monkey. Yes, the monkey. I like that monkey.
Keith Harris and, of course, Orville in Cuddles return to BBC One on Saturday at 5:50.
Now on BBC One, it's time for another adventure in space and time with Lee McMenemy, David Cummings and Cameron Phillips in The Police Box.
Quarantine session! What do you mean, Mr. Quarantine session!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, round up your vardies, tend to your crops, but don't ask where that fertiliser came from. Make no bones about it, it's the Police Box Live. Tonight we continue our trial of Series 10 of New Doctor Who with Smile, in which the Doctor treats his new companion Bill Potts to her first off-world trip in the TARDIS, whisking her off to the far future to visit an Earth colony, populated only by a series of small robots whose sole means of communication is the emoji. Talking of which, I'm joined as ever tonight by two men who, if I were to sum them up via the medium of emojis, are most definitely nighttime, tree, binoculars, window, nurse, big purple aubergine, telephone, police car. It's Cameron Phillips and David Cummings.
You said big purple emoji, I'll take that. That's good, yeah.
Not actual size.
Is it a testament to how old I am? I was sat there along that way going, right, is that? Right, okay.
The only one you knew
cool.
was the aubergine, wasn't it?
Well, the aubergine did come to mind quite quickly, yeah, you know.
Didn't it always?
Yes.
Welcome along, everybody. It's another episode of the Police Box Live. Tonight we're doing Smile. The eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that once again the courtroom doors have been thrown open, and we welcome tonight a man who, in his most recent podcast venture, takes a series of Doctor Who, invites guests on to present cases for and against the stories in question, while asking listeners for their thoughts, before eventually revealing a result at the end of the show, determining whether an episode is popular or not. Just where does he get his crazy ideas from? Pull up a chair and enjoy his appearance tonight before he receives the inevitable phone call from our lawyers. He's one half of the Winkleman and Daly of Doctor Who fandom, from Strictly Come Hamster, making his Police Box debut. He is the one and only Mr. Rod Brown.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you, Cam. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Dave. Wonderful.
How are you, Rod? You well?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this. Unfortunately, I am missing my my comedy sidekick tonight, which is a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, Joe Ford was going to be joining us once again today. Sadly, he can't make it. So, hello, Joe, if you're watching. We're missing you already.
Hi, Joe.
We'll get you back on soon.
I think he was too scared. He knew my arguments were strong on this one, and he couldn't face it.
Yeah, just ran for the hills. He knew he was on a loser with this one, didn't he? That's what it was. Okay, then. So Smile is going before the courtroom tonight. Let's have a look before we get into all that and see what has happened with the other trials so far of the series. Here are the series results so far. The return of Dr. Mysterio was a 50-50 split. The judge's decision was ultimately not guilty in favour of Dr. Mysterio, so that goes into the unofficial canon. Last time round, we had Richie Morgan on to put the pilot on trial. That was found not guilty by 75% to 25%, all of which means Cameron leads the series 2-0 with 11 trials remaining.
11. It sounds like such a long time.
Yeah.
What
was the asterisk? What asterisk are you talking about?
It was the judge's decision. It's meant to be a public vote.
And it was 50-50.
Yeah. So it's as guilty as it's not guilty. So it's not one to you for that. The public didn't say it was guilty.
But a decision has
Ignore
to be
them,
made.
mate. Ignore them.
Didn't
It's a
say it
very
was.
learned decision.
Are you, Mr.
Yes.
Cummings, questioning my authority in this courtroom?
No, I'm not. You
Good,
you have a
correct
vote
answer.
same as everyone else, but you also run the poll, so slight corruption there.
Oh,
I'd
the
kick
words
him
of
out now,
Ethan
though.
tonight.
He's gone straight down the Trump route, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they say you've got all these votes. I had a look at the video. There wasn't that many people there. I think it's AI.
In case you're wondering, Dave has gone down the Trump vote tonight. That's why he's wearing only one side of his earphones, because he's got a bandage underneath there.
Is that why at halftime we're swapping you out for a black lassie?
Oh,
Is that the arrangement?
Everyone exits the room now.
Yeah, on that note, before he lands us in even more trouble, I say we should probably get this show on the road. What about you three?
Definitely.
No.
Let's go.
Yeah,
fast.
let's probably go.
Oh, fine. Outvoted again. Off we go.
Do you know what? If it's been a draw, I would have said yes, Dave. So,
Oh, yeah. Now you
exactly
say
what-
that.
Not playing
After
up
the
to the
fact.
stereotype of the grumpy Scotsman at all.
Not at all. There's
No,
none
not
of
at
those
all.
on this podcast, mate. None of those
None
at
of
all.
that. We're all exceedingly happy.
Okay, then let's get the next installment of this ongoing courtroom epic underway. It's time once again to go back to 2017, the rock and roll years. Will the subject of tonight's trial offer up a winning smile, or is it definitely just wind? Let's find out as we put Smile on trial. Smile was written by Frank Cottrell Boyce, was directed by Lauren Scoff, and produced by Peter Bennett with music by Murray Gold. It starred Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, Pearl Mackie as Bill, and Matt Lucas as Nordal, with Kiran El Dadlani as Kezia, Mina Anwar as Goodthing, Kaiser Akhtar as Praiseworthy, Ralph Little as Steadfast, Kalungi Sependake as Nate, and Kiran Shah and Craig Garner as the Emoji Bots. It was broadcast on Saturday the 22nd of April 2017, and the viewing figures were 5.9 million viewers overall. Those are the cold, hard facts and figures of the broadcast. All that really remains to do now is, well, call this court to session.
This court is now in session.
The trial of Smile is now underway. Here's who's doing what tonight. Dave is going to be prosecuting Smile. Cam and Rod are going to be defending it. As is traditional, let's go to this first.
This is the law, chapter 1.
Once again, we've taken to the flaming bin fire that is Twitter to ask you, the viewers, to give us your evidence on whether a smile is a worthy addition to our unofficial canon of Doctor Who. Here's what you've been saying. First up, it's our guest on our next episode of the Post Box Live. It's Daniel Ronsley, who says this.
At worst, I feel bad for a while, but then I just smile. I go ahead and smile.
Daniel then goes on to say, Capaldi and Mackie are wonderful together and continue to be a winning combination, but is largely content to coast by on just their chemistry and some lovely location work. After the pilot, it's all just a bit blah.
I'm loving all the emojis. Well done, Daniel. Really on track.
Yeah.
Daniel is committed to the bit. That's fine.
Well, they have to explain them all to Cameron.
Yeah, he's playing to the audience of a room of middle-aged men here, isn't he, with his emojis? So, we'll explain later, Cam. We'll explain later.
Oh, okay.
Daniel's a young person.
Yes. Down with the
Is he one of them?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, all right. Does he say the word yeet?
I've not heard him say that, to be fair, but my default ears might have missed it, so it's possible.
Who knows?
He's on the next episode. We're all going to have to wear backwards caps and hold skateboards and do the whole sort of fellow kids thing when he's here.
Yep.
Like we did with Luke Malloy.
Yep.
So we'll need to buy skateboards then.
I think he's even younger than Luke Malloy, so, just be warned, gents. And
wow.
It had to happen.
He was positively like an embryo.
Yeah. Soon we're going to end up with people that were born this century on the podcast. We can't be having that.
No. Don't be ridiculous.
People only like us.
It's when we're inviting all these people on that weren't even born when Doctor Who got cancelled in 1989. That's just, where's it going?
That's so.
Where are we ending up?
Well, I can't account for the age of our next viewer evidence contributor, but he is a newbie who hasn't been in touch before. It's Ben O'Neill. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, Ben. Ben says this: I haven't watched it in a while, but it was really fun. Like most of Series 10, I'm too busy enjoying our main cast to really care about the plot too much, unless it's a masterpiece. From memory, I had a great time.
That'll do, mate.
Yep, very wise.
Ben's allowed back on officially.
Regardless of age, he's now in now. He's in.
He could be. I don't know. He could be like, well, what he said, he'd watched it on broadcast. So what is he? Must be at least like 8, 12. 9, at least. Yeah. So it should be fine.
Next up, Daniel Knight, who is short and to the point and just says it's better than In the Forest of the Night Garden.
That's not hard.
Yep.
Unless I'm defending it.
It's a fairly low bar, to be fair.
That's good. The bar solo, that's practically underground. So that's Daniel's thoughts. Next up, you're going to see him in October for our Empress and Mars episode. It's Dave Rennie. Here's what he's got to say about Smile. He says it's one of the dullest, most boring Doctor Who episodes ever. Yes, it's a great location, but Frank doesn't seem to get Doctor Who as a writer. Lots of walking about, and then the big guest star, Ralph Little, gets about 2 lines. Sleep-inducing.
Yes.
What I want to know from Dave is, if Thelma Barlow had been in it instead of Mina Anwar, would he have given it a 10 out of 10? Because I think he would.
Is he a bit of a Thelma Barlow stan, is he?
He is, yeah, unfortunately, yeah. He's probably moist just at the mention of the name.
Dave's itching to come in with a joke here, I can tell.
I was just thinking, Moist at the Mention would be a really good band name.
I think it was a Yes album, was it not? Moist at the Mention.
No, that'd be like Def Leppard or some kind of like 80s hair metal band, wouldn't it?
Steel Panther album.
It's like slippery when wet, moist at the mention. You know what I mean? Same idea.
Next up on Viewer Evidence, talking of that Empress Mars episode, it's our other guest on that very episode. It's Fraser Gregory, who says this about Smile. It's no Orphan 55, but it's not particularly bad either. By the numbers sort of story, with some nice locations showing just a bit meh.
Hang on, can I take exception with Fraser Gregory again? Champion of the Damned. This story gets quite a bit of flack And he's supposed to be champion of the dance. Who should be championing it? Again, copyright infringement.
The man's got off form.
Yes, indeed, Fraser.
I like you said I have to object to what Fraser says again. That's like a constant theme on Strictly. So that's what Fraser's got to say.
Insulting all your guests.
Oh no, but it's fine. We do.
Yeah, I do.
Next up, Cliff Chapman has been in touch to say this about Smile. Low key love this. That isn't as good as once people start waking up, but the Doctor and Bill taking their time to explore a deserted place and a mystery feels Hartnell-esque, or at least dark in space. Underrated.
So the defense of this is good until there's people in it. It's not exactly high praise, is it?
Other people.
That's not going to be my defense, I think you'll find.
Nope.
Let's see what David Gillespie Pratt's got to say about it, because he's quite clearly been looking through his big boy's book of Spanish architecture, because he says this about Smile. But the location is really pretty. That's got to count, surely.
It is.
Smooth lines. Oh, look at those curves. Oof.
Let's just say yes.
I'm sure the cast and crew enjoyed their holiday in Spain.
Well, this isn't a JNT story, you know. They weren't all swimming in the pool all day.
I'm sure it's either this or two doctors.
Next up, Gareth Bowley has been in touch to say this. It's average, not bad, not great. Tells a straightforward tale that gets lost in the bigger thrills and explosions of this series.
Yeah, there's not that many thrills, though. It's yeah.
Lost, he says. I'll take exception to that.
That's kind of your job. Next, you've got the format. Well done. You've only been doing this 6 years. It's finally cracked it. Next up tonight is Mark Dorick, who you'll be able to hear alongside Cameron on a future Strictly Come Hamster. Mark has got this to say about Smile. He says it starts well with an excellent premise and great visuals, but then falls to pieces in the last third, an unsatisfactory conclusion.
Well, you were going to hear Mark Dodick on a future Strictly Come Hamster. Possibly now he's been cancelled. So sorry, Mark.
Edit him out.
He's out.
Okay, next up is a man who may or may not get edited out of a future Strictly Come Hamster. We don't know. It all depends on what he's going to say about Smile. Melvin Piena says this about Smile. I've been rewatching Series 10 ahead of a Saturday recording with the Flight Through Eternity crew. I'd forgotten what a breath of fresh air Bill was and how the Doctor's entire approach changed when she joined up. My favourite moment, Doctor, past or future. Bill, future. Doctor, why? To see if it's happy.
Well, it fucking isn't. It's dull.
The future is not going to be happy on the Polish Box Live tonight.
It's dull. It's not Ralph.
That grumpy old bastard in the top now.
Next up, John Arnold, who says this. Surprised by how charming it was on my last rewatch. Looks gorgeous. The premise updates a happiness patrol, and as the Beast Below did, it has the space to properly explore the new Doctor-companion relationship.
Well said, John Arnold.
Oh, yes.
He's a very sensible man.
He is. Don't know him, but he is.
And he's yet another husband of Joe Ford. So, join that growing throng.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I wasn't told this.
No, sorry.
I wasn't told this. I didn't know. I didn't know how to form a queue.
Do you not pass him on the way to the bathroom?
Oh, it was him. Right. I thought he was just. Hey, Joe told me he was the cleaner.
I'm not telling you what he was cleaning.
Yeah, or polishing. Next up, it's the man who's usually the beacon of positivity in Doctor Who fandom. It's Cy Hart, but he quite shockingly says this. Beautiful location. I wanted to film in the Park of Arts and Sciences in Valencia for years, but oh my goodness, it's terribly dull. Capaldi and Mackie just make it about worth watching.
I think your key two words in that sentence are the two at the end.
Just about.
Excellent point.
Yeah, just the end. Just about.
And we'll be concentrating on those two in that piece of evidence.
You see, if I'd been editing
Worth
those comments,
watching.
those are the only two I'd have put through. Worth watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Worth watching.
I'm a bit concerned about Si. Is everything all right at home, mate, Si? Are you okay? That's the first negative thing I've ever heard him say on the Postbox Live.
It's the first negative thing he's ever said.
Yeah.
Well, it shows how bad this is.
Oh, he's right in
my
there.
heart that it must be guilty.
You heard it from the judge, not from me.
Hey, that's not a judgment. That's just a comment. Another comment is from Mark Harrison, who's going to be joining us right at the very end of this series in December for Twice Upon a Time. Mark's got this to say about Smile. He says it lacks what most good episodes need, which is a second idea beyond the premise, so the back half falters a bit. But it's a fun and funny hangout episode for Bill. I love the location shooting. How did it take this long for New Who to use actual architecture as another world?
So we've got fun, funny, love. Yep. Having all of those.
Go with that. Yep.
Yep. Lots of defensive buzzwords there.
Yeah,
I mean, how did it take Doctor Who this?
Needs, but pick random 3 words that you like. Ignore the
Didn't hear that bit. Must have been the Bluetooth. Didn't hear that bit.
Yeah.
Didn't. Hello? Hi. Hello?
Next up, Nathan Bottomley, who has been in touch to say this about Smile. It says a Flight Through Eternity podcast recorded its Smile episode last weekend, so the NDA I signed won't permit me to comment, apart from saying that the Emoji Bots emoji game is shit.
Oh, Nathan.
Yeah.
Wow. Christ.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
harsh, man.
Is it?
Harsh.
Emoji Bots?
Yeah, but he's holding back, isn't he? He's going to
little emoji bot.
praise when we get there.
Comes on here, plugging another podcast, and then just drops the mic and walks off.
I know. Terrible.
Some people. Next up is another newbie, Philip R. Clark. Good evening, Philip. Thanks for jumping on board.
Hello, Philip.
Hello, Philip. Philip says, Doctor Who and the emojis, whenever this series merges popular culture, it risks being dated in the future. As a story, it's okay.
It's a very good point.
Concentrate on that last line.
As a story, it is okay. That's where you're
That'll
going.
do for me.
It's a very
That'll do for me.
It's still veering on the
It doesn't matter.
veering towards positive than negative, so we'll have it.
Yep.
It's all degrees.
It's a bar.
Penultimate bit of your evidence tonight comes from Michael Storm, who says, Smile is a jolly little episode, if a little New Who by numbers. Colony after the end of the world, tech misunderstanding human nature. But it works as part of the soft reboot for Bill. Always get Terry Nation Hartnell episodes 1 vibes with this, as we have a huge
Beg your pardon?
of exploring.
Oh, no, right. That's how to leave you on a cliffhanger, isn't it? End the tweet on the word huge.
Amount of exploring a new environment. I quite enjoyed the slower pace, allowing the story to breathe a bit and the Doctor to figure things out progressively rather than in an instant. And to add to the Hartnell vibe, the story ends on an intro into the next story.
It does.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You never had a fucking elephant in Hartnell. Oh, yes, you did, actually.
Same one. He's been just doing the theatre all this time.
Been hanging around for 50 years.
He's probably doing conventions now.
The elephant and John Levine side by side.
An elephant just there going, and that's when we took off Wendy Padbury's skirt.
He's not there in person, he's just making a trunk call. Hey!
Oh,
hey!
It's clearly the elephant in the room. Let's move on.
Final bit of your evidence tonight. Brace yourselves, folks. It's the oncoming storm that is Paul Quinn, who says this about Smile.
This could go anywhere.
Like an indifferent episode of Blake 7, they spend too long getting to the planet or discovering the problem, and then don't have long enough to resolve things or develop a second plot line. It's going to be a hard one for Joe to inject his usual level of filth. Rod will have to do that on his behalf tonight.
I will.
Will he rise to the challenge? Open bracket. Erection joke, close bracket. You could always sing that Lily Allen song to kill the time or finish early and go and have a nice soapy bath. Paul rounds off by saying, seriously, I know it's the summer season and a bit quiet, but couldn't you all be did something better with your time? Couldn't you start a riot over Levine's shit AI reconstructions? Or about cutting Hugh Edwards from Fear? Or about Fear being made in the first place?
I think we've gone off on a few tangents there, Paul.
Yeah.
Paul
I'm
is
all
quite
for
clearly trying to court favour with the defence, one side of the defence.
anyone who is joining me in the Fear Her is the absolute bottom level pits is fine by me.
Oh, I can't wait to make you defend that. It's going to be so much fun.
That's a missing
I
episode
don't-
now, so how can we judge it fairly?
Oh, that's true.
We'll have to watch Neil Levine's AI reconstruction of it.
Yep.
God help us.
Just a really bad animation of Hugh Edwards dropping his keks in front of him.
Bit too
On
soon.
that note, let's get into the trial itself. Guests always go first in the police box. So, Rod, let's get this underway. Let's have your first point of the defence of Smile, please.
Can I ask a few questions before I go into this, just to make sure, I understand the lay of the land? So my first question to you is, I want to quote Bill from this episode. So is this podcast Bloke Utopia? Because we got 3 handsome men and at least 2 of you are already married to Joe Ford. So is this Bloke Utopia?
Bloketopia.
Well, if we're not talking about Doctor Who, we are talking about Scottish football. So make of that what you will for your answer.
Oh God. Okay. Which leads neatly onto my next question. Actually, you must have, peeped at my notes. Are the Vardys anything to do with Rebecca Vardy? Because if they are, you're going to stray into football territory, and as a card-carrying homosexual, I won't understand what you're talking about. So I just need that clearing up. Is it Rebecca Vardy in disguise?
I don't know, but it's not to say it won't happen at some point. I'm sure Dave's got a very different joke about Rebecca Vardy to drop in at some point. But...
Not at all. I respect the woman who has a litigious nature.
It's the kind of women he goes for.
Yeah.
Okay, my third question to you is, the doctor says in this episode that he's not Scottish, he's just crossed. So what I need to know is, are all Scotsmen cross?
It's a fucking
Dave
question.
Clearly is.
Of course we are, Duke. Of course we are, Rod.
Jesus.
Right.
Christ.
Let's move on with the defence. So, this is a great little episode. It's got an intriguing sci-fi mystery. It's got plenty of instants. It's got plenty of discoveries to keep the plot driving forward. It's got a superb TARDIS team, lovely visuals, satisfying resolution. What is not to love about Smile? But I'm going to start my defense. I want to talk about the themes of this story, because I think there are kind of 3 key themes that I picked up watching this. And I think it goes part to argue that there's nothing in this episode, because I think there's a lot more depth to this episode than people give it account for. So the first theme is the threat of AI, or the over-reliance on technology. And I think one of the reasons it works really well here is because we don't fall into that kind of cliche trap that Doctor Who and other sci-fi shows often do, of making the robots bad or evil. They're not trying to take over humanity. They're not trying to make us their slaves. They're not seeing themselves better than us. No, we've got a society here that actually works really well with robots. So the Vardys are incredibly advanced. They make the buildings in which the colonists are going to live. They undertake all the repairs, the maintenance. The problem is that no one's thought through how they're going to respond to real life situations. So in the case of this story, when they first encounter death and the emotion of human grief that results from that. So it's like they've not been properly tested before launch. Now, none of us can say that we haven't experienced something similar like that. I'm going to pick a very random example, and I think from Lee's smile, he knows where I'm going with this. Let's say, for example, you are a purveyor of Doctor Who audio dramas, for example, just to pick a completely random, made up example off the top of my head. You want to launch a brand new website and a new app, but you don't test it rigorously before you launch it. And then when it's released, fuck me, you get inundated with complaints because there's so many bugs and errors because you didn't foresee it. You didn't test it before launch. And yes, I know I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but that's what we're talking about here. It's the danger of technology that we're being presented with. This isn't about robots whose eyes are suddenly turning red and are going to suddenly strangle us. This is a cautionary tale of what happens when we give tech or AI power and autonomy without fully appreciating the range of implications and ramifications. And I think that's a really interesting theme to explore. I think it plays out really well in this episode because the mystery unfolds slowly over time. We watch the Doctor put the pieces together so we understand what's going on as the audience and we reach a satisfying conclusion. So I think that's a great theme to explore. Second theme is communication. So story also addresses kind of the risks inherent in trying to reduce the kind of power and beauty of human language to its most simplest form. So we've got the emoji bots, and here we have an emoji bot. And they base everything off. Yay! They base everything off the most simplistic form of communication. Now, again, relate that to our situations. Who amongst us hasn't misinterpreted or hasn't been misinterpreted when you've sent a text or had an online chat because you're either using abbreviated language or the nuances of communication are lost? And you know, the person at the other end doesn't realize you're being humorous or sarcastic or ironic because you're boiling it down to just a few characters. And that's what this story is talking about. Yes, it's an extreme, but hey, it's sci-fi. We always take things to extreme. And the Vardis are restricted to only responding to emojis. So there's no wonder there's a breakdown in communication. And I think that's a theme that Frank Cottrell Boyce is clearly exploring here. And my third theme that I want to talk about is empire and colonization. So, Lee, you've already mentioned it. Later in the series, you're going to be covering Empress of Mars. And that obviously is a more direct and less nuanced look at the British Empire. Here, think about it. The Doctor very early on recognizes that the Vardi are more than just robots. He equates them to worker bees. And when Bill says, well, she finds them quite disappointing, he said, look, no, don't make personal remarks. He knows there's more to the Vardis than meets the eye. And then when we get towards the end of the episode, the Doctor realizes that actually the robots are self-aware and therefore they represent the indigenous population. Now, let's think about the history of indigenous populations when colonizers arrive. Unfortunately, often the English, and this isn't a pretty situation. Think about, Africa, think about America, think about Australia. The colonizers attack with brute force, and the indigenous people who were unable to communicate effectively because of language barriers are often slaughtered. Yes, early on, some of the indigenous population may fight back. They may even kill some of the invaders because they're fearful, they're scared. But eventually, unfortunately, history shows us, and the British Empire is littered with hideous examples of this. What happens? The Empire massacres and subjugates the people whose lands they're invading. And there are obvious parallels with what's going on in this story because the Earth colonists seem absolutely determined to go to war, but the Doctor intervenes and finds us a great solution where everyone can live happily together. And yeah, that's probably a little bit too sci-fi, a bit too pat for reality. But again, it's showing there's another facet to this episode that's been thrown in. So I think there's a lot more depth in this episode, and hopefully you will agree with me, Sagacity. Just throw that in for a bit of extra creeping.
I'm not saying it didn't work.
Excellent.
You're getting your teeth into there, Dave. On you go.
So, you mentioned that it's not just robots suddenly turning evil with their red eyes, like going from blue to red. iRobot is on telly tonight, and that's what the robots in that do. They suddenly decide they're going to be evil for 5 minutes, turn obviously evil, and then do evil things. But one of the things that iRobot has that's a bad version of Good Stories is the 3 rules. They put in a rule that robots are not allowed to kill people. Now, surely, I know they've not tested the Vardi, but there would be a rule in there that they're not allowed to kill people. I mean, that's kind of like rule 1 of autonomous, powerful robots. You put that rule in, you do not kill people. And there's nothing that can override that rule. That's like the first rule of robotics. So you'd think they'd write that in there. Yes, there's lots of stories of robots being evil, but that's usually after they become self-aware. So the fact that they've become self-aware, changed their rules, this isn't AI, this isn't a robot threat story, it's about the growth of a new civilization almost. So yeah, they don't do the traditional robot tropes of red eyes and killing. They're growing as something else, which kind of leads into your third point of colonization. They are not the indigenous life form. They arrived at the same time as the people. They're not indigenous, they're not weaker. They're not less technologically advanced because, let's face it, humans are pretty easy to break, whereas the Vardy are like innumerable and strong. So you could argue that the Vardy and the humans arrive at the same time. It's not a colonization story at all. It's more like a civil war between two different tribes, and they just look very different. So I'd say your colonization story is wrong. And yes, you can argue that emojis are the most simple form of communication. But as we've discovered talking to Cameron about them, they're not that understandable for old people. So
they're only understandable as if it's an aubergine. I think that was the only one he understood.
Yeah, but there's an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where they discover a race that communicates entirely in metaphors. And that shows that language is a really weird thing. The purest.
Are we talking about Star Trek again?
Yeah. I
Careful
try and throw it in every time now just for fun.
I'm going to go get a drink.
But the whole point of that is that communication, whether it's written or spoken, is really difficult. The truest, most simple form of communication is pheromones. That's what the Vardy would be triggered by, is pheromones. Because pheromones are far more honest than the look on your face. We all know people that can look at you and smile while they're planning on stabbing you in the back. Emojis, based on what your face is doing, are not an honest thing. So, yeah, they're not doing the traditional robot with red eyes thing. But that's because they're not robots with red eyes. That's not the kind of being they are. Emojis are not the most simple form of communication. Pheromones are. And it's not a colonization story because they came there at the same time. There is no power dynamic there for colonization because they came here at the same time. And yeah, the Vardy are more powerful than the humans are by a long way. You see it when there's the fight at the end. And for some reason, they decide to shoot lasers at the almost innumerable small bots in the sky. Like that's going to do anything. They're vastly outnumbered, vastly outpowered. If it is colonization, then the humans are the weaker side in this.
And the Doctor finds a resolution where everybody lives in peace. But I think it's hard to base your argument off Isaac Asimov and Star Trek, and also rewrite the laws of this story to make your argument fit. So I'm having none of it.
All right, then the last point you made, that everyone lives happily ever after. How long do you think it's going to take before resentment builds on one side? And either a human starts messing around with the programming of the Vardy, or somebody gets too far with the Vardy and they get accidentally eaten.
Couldn't you say that about the end of every single Doctor Who story after the Doctor's left?
Yes. But you said this leads to everyone being happy ever after, and they're not.
Well, it finds a resolution to allow them to live in peace if they so choose.
Until he leaves.
As with every other Doctor Who story.
Yes.
So now you're condemning the entire Doctor Who canon.
If I'm prosecuting it, then yes.
All of Doctor Who's guilty. Get it in the bin. You can go to something else for Thursday night. Just before we move on, Cam, I really hope you were filling up your glass with drink there, because when you were off camera, the sound effects were telling us something very different indeed.
Yep.
Well, I was still listening to you. I had my headphones on.
Yeah.
And if that's the colour of it, I'd consult your doctor.
Yeah. You may be dehydrated.
What is this? There's good Robinson's here. Double strength of what? I don't know. But yeah. I just thought whilst you were cracking on about Star Trek, I would just go and I'll take that opportunity.
It's a straw that breaks him. He's off. Once you mention it, that's
pretty much.
Gone.
I know. It's just like, but you'd like Star Trek. They say, would I? I don't know. But it's just
not willing to give it a try.
Well, another show.
Okay, anything more to add on that opening comment from Rod? Anyone?
What is it? I'm trying to decipher where exactly to tackle this in what sort of angle, because it seems to be about 5 different points all at once.
He's done a Richie.
He's done a Richie. Yay! Right. We seem to be engaged in an argument about how this isn't a story about colonization, because Dave, you were saying that they arrived at the same time. Is that right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, they did.
Okay. But the humans are mostly all asleep. So therefore, the Vardy are, got there first and have built this city, it would seem, and have set up all the fields and the irrigation system, and as a result, the food supply and the architecture, and they have obviously, whilst they've arrived at the same time, the Vardy have been more forward in creating a culture and a system that's there for people to live in.
But how can the Vardy have created a culture when they were robots sent to build something? That wasn't their culture they were creating. They were building a culture for humans. So they were building a human culture.
Mhm.
And some of
But
the
it's
humans
still-
were awake the whole time. And
It's still
most
a
of the
culture.
Vardy were dormant when they were in building form. So you can't say that because
Even
most
so-
of the humans were asleep and they don't count when most of the Vardy were dormant most of the time.
Well, I'm
Surely those
saying
cancel
it's
each other out.
rather hard to make contributions to any kind of society when you are an ice cube.
Or when you're a brick. Whereas the ones that were
Well-
awake, the humans were in charge, so they're the ones that told the Vardy how to build this society and how to build this community. According to the plans for humans, as they were growing food that I'm guessing the Vardy don't need to eat.
Well, we don't
No,
know.
They're creating the world, but they're creating it. I agree with you, Cam. They're the ones that are going out creating the world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you were saying that, they've all arrived at the same time, they would just essentially be a load of humans and a load of Vardy in the middle of a wheat field.
That
Well,
is
presumably
pretty
they
much the
sowed
opening
that
scene.
wheat field for them.
Yeah, but it's not like there's like tents. There's an entire city has been built.
Yes. Made of Vardy, who are now dormant. For the people who
Yes,
have been
who
dormant are going to wake up.
obviously got there first and therefore were able to build this. So therefore they have been there first.
And they're not all dormant. They're maintaining the city. That city's got to be maintained. They're working.
Yeah, it has.
As I said earlier, they're related to worker bees. They are constantly working, constantly refining, developing that environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Nope.
Well argued, Dave.
Nope.
Nah. It's not.
I rest my case. Nope.
But I feel like at this point, we are now just going to keep arguing back and forth with the same.
It is going to be one of those circular
phrases.
moments. Yeah,
format.
exactly.
Because we don't
Exactly.
agree.
But that's the format.
Okay, well, in that case, before we move on to the next point, let's just have a couple of comments that have been coming in. In relation to Cam's comment earlier on, Paul Quinn says, Black Lassie, bloody woke remake of the cleaning classic film.
Yeah, commission it now.
Daniel Ronsley's been in touch to say, I'm not down enough for the kids these days. Is he some sort of milk drink?
Nice.
I've no idea. Absolutely no idea.
And Daniel is going to offering us up ideas to contribute to the Police Box merch range. He says, it's rather hard to make a contribution to society when you're an ice cube. Can we have that on a t-shirt?
Yes,
Yeah,
for 20 quid.
Ice Cube wearing one.
Go to Redbubble.
All of which will be available from the Police Box merch store for Christmas.
Yes.
Okay, right. Dave, you're next up. Do you want to give us your first point to the prosecution of Smile, please?
So somebody mentioned earlier the writing of this, and it is Frank Cottrell Boyce. Why the fuck did they get him to write this? That man is now the children's laureate, and as much people insult his earlier work with Doctor Who, it was a child-based story. It was about kids and the planet and trees, and it would have made a great picture book. So at what point did they decide, you know what, we're going to get him to do another one? Is it going to have kids in it? There'll be one kid that gets a couple of lines. All right, so who's he writing for? Well, we're going to get this relatively old Scouse man to write for the old white doctor. All right, he can do that. And a young black lesbian. All right, I don't know if he can really find a voice for that, but it's fine because Moffat will get his fingerprints all over the dialogue, as he does. So, all right, what's the story going to be about? Robots. all right, so it's going to be like a gentle robotic story about how they can be useful. Nah, they're just going to kill everyone. All right, so this children's author is going to write a story where the robots kill everyone. The only actors in it are a black lesbian and an old man. And that's like it. That's all they gave him. Are we going to film it somewhere like nice and friendly and happy? No, it's going to be Sunshine, Alien Planet. And it's just a really weird choice of writer for this story. And I don't know if they decided to give him this story and then forced him to do it this way, or if he just decided to write a story that really doesn't work for his style of writing. But something that I realized when I was watching this story, as Cameron pointed out, and I said it already written down, it's got loads of exposition in it. And it feels like the new Shuigawa stories where they're explaining how it all works. And yes, the one before this was pilot, and this is the second one, so they're still explaining things. But it felt a bit like when they first started courting the Disney money. They wanted to show the Disney executives a couple of stories about how the universe worked. And they didn't want it to be too scary or too intense. And they wanted it to be properly varied and a varied cast and various actors, which is why you've got Asians in here, you've got a black girl in here. We've got everyone. Disney will love it. But there's no story there. It's all explanation and exposition, but not much actual story. It's soft, it's gentle, it's multicultural, almost like a two-parter. Like this and Pilot are kind of like the setup for the future going forward, much as they've done with Shuigawa. And I think what they might have done is got a writer that they know and then kind of forced all the weird bits out of it. So it's just plain and simple and very Disneyfied. And that's what it feels like. So to break this down into my actual point, because I know I've been rambling a bit, this is shite with nothing in it, written by somebody who isn't able to write these kind of stories for characters that he doesn't understand.
I don't even know where to begin with that, apart from wrong. I'll start. Go on, Cam.
I just have a very quick question, Dave. You're saying that you seemingly want this writer to engage in a script about unrelenting misery. Is that what you want?
No, I'm saying that this writer shouldn't have been given another story. Definitely shouldn't have been not given another story that doesn't involve kids. He's not Hugh Edwards. It should have been a story involving children and the way they see the. If they'd done this, but it had been from the point of view of the little boy that woke up, and he woke up and everyone was gone, and it was just him and the Vardy, and he was happy for a while. Then the doctor lands, and they realise would have been a fantastic story. Instead, there's none of that, because Frank Godfrey Boyce is a great writer for children, and this isn't a story that was written for children. It's not because children can't really see themselves in this story. So what I'm saying is he was the wrong writer for this kind of story. And if you've got the wrong writer, then you don't end up with anything good.
Well, you can't just pigeonhole the right. Yes, he's poet or
he's children's laureate. Yeah.
Thank you, he's children's laureate, but that doesn't mean that's all that he can write. And if you're going to write people off, excuse the pun, for their first stories not being great, we wouldn't have had Robert Holmes back, because the Crotons, the Space Pirates, are not great examples of Doctor Who, much as I will probably defend both of them and have defended both of them. They're not the best examples, are they? So if you say, why did they get him back after his first story? Well, why did they get Robert Holmes back after the Crotons and Space Pirates? I think it's perfectly legitimate to see if a writer has got another story in them. And I think it's also perfectly legitimate to give them something that's beyond the narrow lens of what they usually do and give them a broader sheet on which to write.
And I agree with you. The problem is there should also be space to go, no, this is pish. Go away and do it again.
But it isn't pish, which is why it's being produced, as we are ably proving in this debate. And my second
I love how we've got Rod saying pish, by the way.
Pish and
practically Scottish now.
And my second argument with your argument is, what's wrong with multiculturalism? Why is there a problem? There's a black.
I was gonna get that in there. I was like,
What the?
There seems to be a
actual fuck?
notion of there's lots of different people in this. Disney won't be interested, is what I was hearing from that. What?
I was hearing there's people of different colours. How dare they? I don't understand. Or different sexualities. No, we must only have white British men
He
in
doesn't
it.
want to
It
see
would
his
be- it would
foreigners
be-
on his telly.
Rod,
Rod,
Rod, he's gone Trump.
He has gone Trump, hasn't he? He's trying to cancel anybody not in his image. No, sorry, absolutely 100% no. Multiculturalism is very welcome in Doctor Who. Thank you very much.
Yes,
As is
and I completely agree.
very-
It is.
Good.
It's just that a lot of the time we don't see it in stories. And then in this, it seems like it's a bit forced for me.
I don't feel that it's forced in this story at all. Why is it forced?
It felt a bit forced. All right, we could go with the race story. Why is it the Indians they're sent there first to build everything? Isn't that racist? Isn't it? All the Indians are sent to do all the hard work, and then the white guy turns up and says, "I'm in charge now." Isn't that a bit racist to this story?
Well, the white guy says I'm in charge now because the Indians are dead.
Because they did all the hard
So he
work.
hasn't got much of a choice in that
And
one.
actually, Bill says they were the best people. When she reads the book, her response is the people that were first, the shepherds, were the best people. So it's not that they've been picked because of the colour of their skin, which is getting slightly offensive. The reason they've been picked is because they're, quote, the best people.
Yes.
We also don't know where that original starship was launched from on Earth.
True.
United Earth, it says.
Yes.
So,
Mm.
Dave,
But
I
where
think
was
you
it
ought to
launched
practice
from?
United Earth.
You know.
No, I completely agree that multiculturalism is a good thing. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not in any way racist. I hate everyone equally.
Just not in Doctor Who.
It's not in my Doctor. No,
No, my Doctor.
no, it's just that any other time we've seen things like this, where there's only, 6 or 7 really actual actors in it. When a planet has been colonized, they're all of one ethnicity usually. And for the fact that
that's maybe true of classic series stuff, maybe not so much new series.
And I'll say the clues in the logo on the spaceship that says United
Yes.
Earth. So it is a United Earth. All nationalities are welcome.
Yes.
So your argument is null and void.
I feel like I'm getting picked up tonight.
I think, and I'm not saying that this is the case, that you might have struggled for a point here and you just picked that element and now you've been painted into a
How
corner with
very
it.
dare you? No,
Well, you're not believing your own argument.
no, it came out of my view that
I know.
this was being presented to Disney. So they tried to put as many things in as they could sell to Disney as possible, which is why they made it deliberately multicultural.
But surely this was years before Disney or any other streamer.
I was going to say, were we
glimpse in
quoting
the eye.
Back at least 4 or 5 years before Disney were even sniffing around Doctor
We-
Who.
7 years ago?
But if you're the showrunners of Doctor Who and the BBC and you're looking for people to invest because you can't afford to keep making it, you're going to start thinking of how can we sell this to other people? We need to make stuff we can show in the shop window to get people interested.
I don't think that holds water because the Disney discussion didn't even come. We had the whole Chris Chibnall era between the two of them. Chris Chibnall had already been lined up. The future was at that point secure with the BBC and with Chris Chibnall's production. So I don't think Disney were even a glint in anybody's eye at that stage.
No, not at all.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
I don't think. Yeah, I'm with Rod. I don't think the time scale works.
It's a time machine, though, isn't it?
That's grasping at straws.
And he's not denying it, really, is he? He's not putting up a fight here now. So, before we move on to the next point, another few comments have come in while we've been discussing that. Fraser Gregory has been in touch. He said, jumping on while I walk the dog. Can someone quickly recap the bollocks Rod has talked so far, please?
Thanks, Fraser. Just
Jeez.
wind back and listen. Oh, no,
There'll be a
bless
full
them.
summary in a special episode after this goes out, Fraser. Daniel Ronsley says, Rod's told Dave he's wrong about everything, can't wait to get a drink. Star Trek came up and Dave's gone full Trump. To which Gareth Foley asks the fairly sensible question of what would a half Trump be?
It'd be Dave.
We just half a quiff on one side of his bonds.
I was about to say, this is getting personal against Dave, but are you having to go to quiffs now? Careful.
No, I'm having to go at half quiffs, Lee. I think he will no doubt be well aware that you have certainly the full quiff going on.
Thank you.
Okay,
yeah,
quiff agenda.
Jim Allenby is also Jim. Good evening, Jim. He says, after rewatching this for the first time since broadcast, I realised I'd forgotten nearly everything about it. I think it's a perfectly entertaining story. Nothing special. Just needs to be a bit longer.
Look at this. Would have had a second part. That screams to me.
Absolutely. That means he's loving it.
Would have
perfectly entertaining.
Loving every minute. Yep. Perfectly entertaining. Would have loved a second half. Oh yeah.
Well said, Jim.
More, please.
How can it be perfectly entertaining and nothing special at the same time? It's perfect and nothing special. No. Just no.
So you're doing this thing we were doing earlier on of picking out certain words. You have to look at the whole thing.
It's what they do for the posters.
Yep.
Well, Jim certainly loves it. Let's go to somebody else who loves it. Cam, let's have a point for the defensive smile.
And can I just check, is that short for Kamala by any chance? Just a feeling I've got. Yeah.
Okay. Russell T Davies 2.0, Doctor Who, seems to just lift directly from classic stories and plonk them into the show wholesale. Hence, we get Sutek dragged back in from the void. The story of Smile has just enough subtle nods to older stories that don't need to be made absolutely obvious. There's a hint of robot to death, a little bit of Hark in space, Seeds of Doom, Happiness Patrol. I was detecting all four of those stories in this wonderful, lovely package. So what my point being is, it still back references classic Doctor Who, but not in the way that the Shooty Gatwa season does of going, look at this old thing, you enjoy an old thing, don't you? I was refreshingly pleased to see that there was a light, deft touch applied to nostalgia in this story. There you go.
And I've just stopped actually because when Cam starts talking about a lovely, wonderful package, I think I drifted off at that point.
I thought I saw you out at that point. Yeah.
Oh, matron.
Honestly, we don't usually have this sort of absolute filth in the post box.
No.
I can only apologise to our viewers.
We're deadly serious usually most of the time. We're bringing the tone down.
I'm so sorry. I'll have a stiff word with myself.
Let's see what that one's going to be.
Well,
come on, Dave, drag us out the gutter. Let's have your response to that point by Cam.
So you're saying it's got a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it all just mixes together to be a nice bit of nostalgia. If you get a little bit of loads of different things and mix them together, you know what you get? Beige.
A buffet.
You get beige. A big pile of brown. And that's what this is. It's just
after the buffet.
But yes, there's hints of all sorts of possibly good stuff in here, but none of it is realised. It's all just all right. It's, as James said, nothing special. It's meh.
This was James that wanted a second part.
He did not say he wanted a second part. I am picking words that he actually said.
He said he wanted it a bit longer. A bit longer.
Yeah, a bit longer. What's longer than 45 minutes worth of Doctor Who? A double episode of Doctor Who.
Just needs to be a longer. Let's go with bit long. I think he's missed a word there. Just needs to be a episode longer.
An episode longer. Yes.
Dave could be right. It could be missing two words. It could be a lot less. So
yes. Could be a lot less longer. I don't know if that's right.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't think that's grammatically correct.
I'm just trying to find balance here. I'm sure Jim will get back in touch with us and tell us. Oh, yeah, actually,
you meant episode, didn't you, Jim?
Yeah. Clarity, Jim. Clarity, please.
Yeah. No. taking bits of other things and mashing them together does not usually make something good. At least
It's
when you
not.
try and
You're saying mashed together like it's careless, thoughtless, slung in a bowl and just hit with fists. This is deft, skilled, delicate, layered. Oh, it's like chef's kiss. You know what I mean, it's done
the
with
finest ingredients to come out with a cordon
Yeah.
bleu meal.
Yes,
the phrase
this is
you reach
cordon
for.
bleu, Doctor Who. Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
it's more of a thick, lumpy, gruelish stew than a cordon bleu meal.
Just get
Oof,
the tone of
he's
this
harsh.
conversation. Next week, I will not be hosting the Postbox Live. It'll be Greg Wallace and John from MasterChef. Will be the hosts, so be sure to tune in for that.
Have we got a guy who used to work as a chef that we could reference in this?
If only we had someone like that on this call.
Ah, well, we don't.
Unfortunately, it's Dave, so he's just going to back up his own point.
Yes. Oh, and that camera left.
That was it for him. He's back.
He's gone and he's out.
He's so disgusting. He's just left.
I realised I was making like chef and cooking analogies with a chef. So
Chef, yeah.
yeah.
Always dangerous territory.
So, suddenly realised I was on dangerous territory. That too hot in this kitchen. But no, point remains. It's well blended together with like being sieved and everything like that.
Like a kale smoothie. It's full of green bits and it's shite.
We've had some confirmation from Jim while we've been slugging the cooking analogies backwards and forwards on the call. Jim says, that's me deleting words to fit the word limit. It's entertaining, but it needs another 10 minutes to breathe at the end.
10 minutes. You'd still want more.
Yeah.
Still want more of this.
Like a well-proven dough.
He's not saying get it off.
Yeah,
the screen.
exactly.
Yep.
No, he's not saying this needs to be gone completely. No, none of that. He wants an encore.
More, please. Yep.
More, please.
Wait, I can have some more. Do you like that? With
Yeah,
his
just
little
like,
hole,
please, can I
wanting
have
some
some
more gruel.
More smile, please, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't
More
get
smile.
enough. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm getting the impression that point has run out of steam since we were just talking about food.
I think
now.
so.
Yeah.
So it's almost like someone else calls hungry. Somebody not had their tea tonight.
Straight enough, I had stew for tea tonight.
Is it grey and lumpy?
Just
No,
lots
it
of
was
things chucked in together. It shouldn't really work.
It was red and lumpy because it had sausages in it and tomatoes. And my wife made it. It was very tasty.
There you go. Dave's cooking is not guilty of crimes against dinner. I can confirm that. Right. Okay. Well, we're coming up to the hour mark, so that seems like a good time as any to have a half-time break. We'll go away for a few minutes. Just time to arrange it. The voting is still open, so if you go to Twitter at the Polis Box or clicking the link in the episode description of this video you're watching right now, you get to cast your vote and decide whether Smile is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. That's got about another hour to run. So we'll go and have a little half-time break and we'll be back in a few minutes' time to continue the trial of Smile. I'll see you in a few minutes' time. And we're back for the second half of the trial with Smile. We were just waiting for a couple of minutes for Cam to put his headphones back on. I was just on the point of just going rogue and just starting off without you, Cam.
I was petting the dog.
Is that a euphemism?
No, I'm just.
Do you know what? A couple of episodes ago, it was a bit of a touch and go, but it was a euphemism. Petting the dog off screen. Just,
You know, I do own a dog. We have seen her. She's about somewhere. She's wandered off now. Don't know where she's gone. There you go.
We're
Yeah.
back to the second half of the trial of Smile. While I've been away, there has been another comment coming in, and it's from Daniel Ronsley, who says, "Not sure if Capaldi's line, 'I met an emperor made of algae once, he fancied me,' is a reference to a past story or not, but he says it so wistfully, it always makes me laugh."
That's one of those lines that's got showrunners' fingers all over it.
It couldn't really get onto couplings, so he had to use it here. You know,
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. It's just...
It's very Moffat.
We'll know if that's...
point.
It's rom-com lines.
We'll know if it's a thing if the last ever episode of Doctor Who. If the last ever episode of Doctor Who, before it inevitably gets like cast off into like the stratosphere somewhere of television, is a king made of algae, just goes, "You're all right."
Close. That's it.
That's it. Doctor Who's final line.
You're such a smooth talker, Cam. I can see why Joe fell for you.
Well, what can I say? What can I say?
Ocean's made of song, cities made of smoke, emperors made of algae. Come on, Ace.
Yep.
We've got work to do.
A tale as old as time.
Oh, don't you'll start Dave off on his anti-Disney rant again. You've had that one. Can't cope for a second.
It's got black folk in it. Disney won't be interested.
Before he starts with his anti-mouse rhetoric, there is time to remind you that voting is still open, so based on arguments put forward by Cameron, Dave and Rod tonight, you get to decide whether Smile is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. Cast your vote using the details running along the bottom of the screen there. There's about 50 minutes of the poll remaining, so get your votes, and if you haven't done already, we'll reveal the results at the end of tonight's show. And you can also get in touch with us to give your thoughts on Smile. Just send a comment through the live chat box on YouTube. We'll put them up on screen as they come in. Right then, back to the trial. Rod, do you want to give us another point for the defence of Smile?
I'd love to give you another point for the defence of Smile, and I'm going to call this Getting to Know You. So, look, this is the second story for Bill, and it's important that we spend time with her because we need to get to know her, we need to get to understand her, we need to relate to her. And I think that's really important because we've got to come to care for Bill, because otherwise the emotional gut punch that's coming further on down in the season, don't want to spoil it for you guys. I know you've not got there yet, but there are nasty things ahead. And if we don't lay the seeds properly and we don't get to care and know and love Bill at this early stage, then that's not going to land so well. So it's important that we have some breathing time in this early part of the season to get to know her. And I'm really happy about that. I think it works really well. And I think the Doctor is also, someone mentioned it earlier as well, I think the Doctor's really revitalised by having a new companion to bounce off. I mean, just look at his kind of pride and swagger at the beginning when he's showing off to Bill. I mean, it's glorious. You know, even when he goes and stands by the TARDIS, I stand like this. He's so proud, and he tells her he stole the TARDIS because he thinks it's going to give him a little bit of kudos. He's absolutely showing off to her, and he's glorying in it, and she's rising to it. It's lovely. Bill, for her part, she is the companion of questions. She asks lots of questions, and my God, she asks lots of questions in this episode. But what she doesn't do is she doesn't slip back into that kind of 60s, 70s mold of, what's that, Doctor? What do I do, Doctor? Where do I stand, Doctor? Her questions have got depth, they've got purpose, and sometimes they're completely tangential and therefore just very funny. The one that I really love is when Bill asks the Doctor why he doesn't just call someone else to help. And then she looks at the writing on the TARDIS telephone panel and realizes that actually the Doctor is the helpline. And of course, Pearl Mackie, Peter Capaldi are absolutely amazing in this. He's full of wonder and charm, intrigue, excitement, anger, compassion. He's absolutely everything you want from the Doctor. I've also got a bit of a soft spot for stories where the Doctor gets something wrong, and he does get something wrong here because he's about to blow up the ship before he realizes, no, actually all those people are in cryogenic sleep down there. And that relationship with Bill works really well. I love the fact he tries to protect her twice. Once he takes her back to the TARDIS, tells her to wait there. And then when she comes into the old station with him, he wants to keep us by the map so she doesn't walk into the heart of the ship into danger. And when she finally realizes that she's cross with him, it's lovely. They've just got such a great dynamic. And Pearl Mackie, this is the second story. She's absolutely superb in this. What I wouldn't have given for a couple more seasons with Capaldi, Pearl Mackie, and yes, Nardole as well. We only see a little bit of him at the beginning. she's just refreshingly normal as a companion. I like Amy, I like Clara, but boy, it's refreshing to have someone just normal and fun and engaging who wants to be there, who's excited by the adventure. Fabulous. So yeah, it's absolutely right. This second episode that we spend time with them, I absolutely lap it up. And unlike misery old Dave up there, I love Moffat comic dialogue. And one bit, okay, it's not grandstanding, but I love this bit of dialogue. So the Doctor said, "Don't sentimentalize me. I just fly around helping people out." So Bill says, "Well, what are you doing right now?" "I happen to be passing by, so I'm looking in." Love it. Love it. Funny, hilarious, great chemistry, great dynamic. What a pair. Absolutely. Why can anyone complain about spending time with these two when they're discovering new things, learning what's going on, solving mysteries, and finding a resolution? Bloody perfect. Mic drop.
If I may pick up the mic and back up my learned colleague, I do have a point here that was along those lines as well, and it was about the part that really gets that idea for me of the chemistry between Bill and the Doctor in this is it's such an inconsequential thing, but it's her pointing out why and asking why he never just moves the seats closer to the console, and the Doctor just going, "Well, I just have it this way," and that's it's their kind of relationship personified in a couple of lines, and B, it's the show willing to poke fun at itself, and that's that's where the comedy comes from in that one. And I just found that little tiny couple of seconds in that exchange just really, really nice and sweet.
It's just really natural, isn't it? The two of them together.
Yeah, I've got that written here. So yeah, the scene of Bill and the Doctor discussing how the TARDIS works is both funny and natural. Alongside last week with her the first thing she says when she gets aboard the TARDIS is that the toilet, "Where's the toilet? I need a wee," which is probably, I still maintain, the most relatable thing anyone's ever said as soon as they've set foot in the damn thing.
Okay, Dave, tell them why they're wrong.
I don't think anyone's ever said that Moffat is not good at writing dialogue. The man can write good dialogue. Sparkling, witty conversation where two people bounce off each other is what he's good at. I'm not going to disagree with that at all. I think that the amount of questions she asks and the time that we have to wait for her to realize the answers or for her to, get to the point of the answers is too long. It feels drawn out. The scene where she's going, "Isn't there someone you can call? Isn't there a number?" While literally in the screen, in the shot, we've got her standing next to the panel with the phone number on it. And it just feels too heavy-handed and too... We used to be able to watch Doctor Who stories and we'd be able to come to our own conclusions. Instead, it's like, "But isn't there somebody you could call?" And then they go fix it, and then they go 20 minutes there, "Wait a minute, you are who gets called." And instead, it's like, "Isn't there someone you can call? Look over here. Here's who. It's him that gets called." And it just felt really obvious and like it was just being pushed on us, which Doctor Who never used to do. It never used to be this obvious with these kind of points.
The thing is,
it was always left to the viewer to come to those conclusions themselves.
But we're watching Bill come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
No, I was just going to say, in new series, you've only got a set amount of time to tell these stories, like 45 minutes. Whereas before, back in the old times, you've got at least 2 hours to tell a story.
You got about 8 weeks.
Yeah, so there has to be an immediacy in getting to the point of things in a 45-minute runtime, surely, Dave.
Yes, but there wasn't as much immediacy as the immediacy was done wrong for me. It just felt like she was asking loads and loads of questions, but it just felt like the pacing was wrong. This feels like, several people pointed out, this feels like quite a slow episode. It's not fast. It doesn't move along quickly. It just slowly kind of gets there, except when she's asking questions. And if you're watching it, the answers to the questions are really obvious because they're always right there. Especially in that scene where she's asking, "Isn't there someone you can call?" Like, yes, he saves her by running out to the TARDIS with her and then running straight back in. But we always knew he was going to go back in and help. And yes, I know we're learning along with Bill what the doctor's like. But she could have just stayed there, waited for a minute, looked around, then looked at the panel and gone, oh, and then gone in to help him. Not gone, isn't there someone you can call? Because that just felt...
I think she does that.
Yeah, it just felt far too forced. So yes, some of the dialogue is great, but the fact that she seems to get used for exposition a lot of the time, and it's her asking a question on behalf of the audience that the audience maybe don't need asked, because just tell a story and we'll come to those conclusions ourselves.
But she needs to know the answers to those questions. This is all new to her. This is her second episode. She needs to know what's going on. We've also established that she's a student, so therefore she wants to ask questions, she wants to learn, and we're seeing the personification of her role. She's wanting to learn and take more and more on, and that's what she does. She says in the first episode, I ask questions. That's her, that's Bill.
Yes. And I completely get that. And it's a good thing to ask questions. If you don't know something, ask about it. That's always a good thing. I'm in no way having a go at that. It's just the incessant questions and not being allowed to come to the answers on our own seems a bit unfair of the character. Because as you say, she was originally going to like lectures to learn, to find out for herself. So now that she's being spoon-fed the answers, it feels a bit reductive.
But I think she's still in that student mode, isn't she? She's still in that attending a lecture mode. Although this lecture is on a Earth colony, like thousands of years into the future, by the looks of it. She's still very much in that kind of like listening and wanting to be given this information. I think, you know, we're in this early stages of their relationship. Maybe later on she will settle in and it'll be, you know, she will do those things of her own violation. But at the minute, there's still a very teacher-student relationship going on. Probably more than there has been in any version of Modern Who up to this point.
But bear in mind as well, it's actually Bill that takes the doctor to the resolution of... So she saw the dead body. She's learned what's going on. She goes back to meet the doctor. The doctor at that point doesn't know what's going on. It's Bill that says, I think I can show you. So Bill has learned. So she's not just, you know, a standing question. She actually has learned and she's discovered the answer and she takes the doctor. So the positions are reversed at that point. So I think that she's got far more to her. Yes, she's asking lots of questions because she's learning, but we see actually she's putting that learning to practical use and practical application. And she's the one that helps get to the resolution of the story. When the doctor's unsure what to do or why things are happening, she shows him.
Yeah, because it's her that discovers the body of that the woman originally, isn't she?
Yes,
she's the first to discover it. So therefore,
she works out what's going on and then takes the doctor there.
Yeah, she's also the one that as a result of that doesn't want, you know, realizes it's probably a really bad idea to blow the place up.
Yeah, she meets the wee boy. She finds him and realizes they shouldn't blow it up.
Yeah.
I don't quite know
so
how. But the doctor saw the map of the spaceship, memorized the map of the spaceship, and didn't notice the cargo hold where there was hundreds of frozen people.
Well, if it just said cargo hold, it didn't say, look, there are people in the cargo hold. It just says cargo hold.
Folk here.
This is a guy who wanders around for like 2 episodes of Earthshock without realizing it's full of Cybermen. Come on.
It's just like
he's got history for this kind of thing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's not signposted on there.
With Bill, though, I mean, that's
Earthshock would have been a lot quicker if it just said Cybermen across all the things. You know, it would have been like, oh shit.
Time to go. Should we just go back to Castrovalva? Yeah.
Nice still, you would have had to engineer it to make sure that Adric still dies because that's the important bit.
Yeah, everybody back in the top. Not you, Adric. You stay here.
Yeah, Adric, just stay there. He's a maths book.
You might need this.
A companion.
Crash the ship.
Cybermen, you say.
Crash the ship. Sorry, I'm digressing.
That's okay. But it always comes back to bumping off Adric in the end, no matter what we're talking about. It's a
Yeah, bumping off
isn't
Adric, is that a euphemism? I'm just checking how this podcast works.
And it was bumping off Adric that got something about John Barrowman in trouble. We're working it.
Yeah.
We'll workshop it. We'll throw it back and forth.
Okay.
It's Adricing his bump that got John Barrowman to the Trump. No.
But it's a work in progress.
Yeah. We'll come back to that.
Right then, Dave. Let's have another kick to the crotch of Smile. On you go.
So we've touched on this earlier. The resolution of this story. Now, as somebody who works in IT, I completely understand why this is a thing, because it does work a lot of the time. But he turns them off and then turns them back on again. That's fine. That's the standard IT troubleshooting. Have you done a reboot?
Yeah.
My problem with it is this. He resets their programming. How far back does he reset it? Because if they've already came to this planet as just machines, and then they grew their programming and they learned and they became self-aware after that, he wiped all of that out. He has just mind wiped the self-awareness of an entire fucking civilization. Now, that's basically
the charge
genocide.
now is genocide.
But how far back did he wipe them? Did he just wipe out the memory of them getting killed? Did he wipe out the memory of them killing people? Or has he left it so that they're self-aware and they know that people die really easily? How far back did he go? Because no matter how far back he went, there's a problem there. The Doctor should not be wiping out the intelligence of a species just so that people can live there. That's when it becomes colonization and genocide. At the end, when he does that. And then he goes, hey, I can maybe get you some rent for this building. Like, you have just lobotomized a species.
Not very doctory, is it?
No, and he's very glib about it. And I get the Vardy come back and they're still the Vardy potentially. But he has done... What has he done to them? How much has he taken away from them of their self-awareness and their knowledge? Because that is, as Lee said, really, really not a doctory thing to do. So I think the fact that it shows the Doctor do something really, really non-doctory and really quite questionable ethically means that this is a bad thing for it to show the Doctor doing. Because yeah, he fights wars against the Cybermen, he fights against the Daleks. At no point does he go, you know what, I'll just melt a bit of their brains out, it'll be fine. And that's what he does to the Vardy. He lobotomizes an intelligent, self-aware species for the good of humans. So that's a point for the prosecution.
And I would respond to that by saying we don't actually know what the Doctor did. There's no description. Yes, we get the very glib response of turn off and turn it back on again and reset. But that's just the Doctor's simple way to, it's a hand wave of an explanation. He doesn't actually go into the details of what he's done. You could put whatever interpretation onto that action you like. You're choosing to read it in a negative way. I'm choosing to read it that, of course, he did absolutely the right thing. And I don't know what he did because I haven't got the intelligence of a Time Lord. So I'm going to assume he's done the right thing. I don't think there's enough there to draw an argument out of. You're making suppositions out of dialogue that isn't there, and I cast you out this court.
Hey, that's my job.
Oh, sorry, sagacity.
I feel that the ending of this story is essentially saying that we can all make mistakes and start again, and everyone involved in this story has done so and needs this hard reset. Because the Doctor's made a mistake in assuming that he could just blow the place up and that would solve the problem, and didn't quite maybe appreciate the intricacies of what was going on. The Settlers have made the mistake of going straight to a war footing and believing that this is like a battle to be fought. And the Vardy have made the mistake of believing that anything other than happiness is a fault and an error. So this Smile is a story about making mistakes but being able to start again. And I think that ending plays up to that.
I agree with Cam, and I'm also going to add the fact that the Doctor gives us that long speech at the end about being pro-Vardy and talking about them being the indigenous population and respecting and acknowledging them as a self-aware life form. The fact he's given that speech, that doesn't then say to me, and the action he's taken whilst giving that speech, which is very positive and very life-affirming, is to slaughter them all. Those two things just don't go together. That's incongruous. Otherwise, he wouldn't be giving that very, very positive speech. So clearly, he's done something in line with that speech that he's giving, which is to, whatever action he has taken, it is not to wipe the minds of the Vardy or to commit genocide. He has maintained the status quo and looked after them. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so positive about them.
The status quo was the Vardy turning all the people into a pile of bones. The Doctor has interfered with the Vardy to stop that happening.
The Doctor interferes all the time.
But it's the way he interfered. And yeah, I know we don't know the details of it. We don't know what he did. But the Vardy were dominant. They were more powerful. They were in charge. And then he interfered with them.
Hang on, wasn't your earlier argument that the colonists were more powerful than in charge? You're now arguing against your earlier argument. I think you'll find.
No, I said that the Vardy were more powerful because you said there was a colonization story. And I said the Vardy were more powerful because even though they'd arrived at the same time, the Vardy were more advanced. They were stronger. There was more of them. They outnumbered and outgunned the humans. So the Vardy were more powerful, as they were in the final scene. We all knew when the shooting started, the Vardy were going to win. There was no doubt about that. Because, yes, they might have lost a couple of the robot droids, but they would have been repaired, and the little Vardy would have just turned everyone else into bones and fertilizer. So the Doctor interfered. What?
Sorry, I'm just going to say, I always find in life you can't really shoot Sky piranhas.
No, you can't.
It's a very common problem with Curtle
That's
Bridge.
a message for us all to take to heart.
No.
We've learned nothing else tonight.
So yeah, I think the Doctor did something questionable. And you're right, we don't know the details, but it's still questionable.
But would he be making such a positive speech whilst doing something questionable that's completely in opposition to what he's saying?
Yes, he would.
Because it suits your argument
quite a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm not buying that. I think his speech makes very clear what his intentions are, and they are not of the negative variety.
Okay, I'm going to have to break my code of neutrality here, but Dave does make a very good point about ethics. Another good point about ethics is it's just out of Ipswich. Let's move on. Cameron, do you want to give us another point for the defensive smile?
Do I not get any time to recover from that shite joke?
No.
Oh, that was a joke, was it? Oh, sorry, I didn't realise.
You've not had any time to recover in the last 5 years of doing this. I'm not about to start now.
No, this is true. This is true. Science fiction, as we know, often brings in something that we know of in this current society and amplifies it into the future. And it gives the audience something to latch on to. So I think it was a rather good idea and a little bit of stroke of genius to have the robots speak emoji. I say speak emoji, you know what I mean? Because it not only gives them some kind of like disconnected kind of creepiness to them, despite the fact they're on the surface of it helpful robots. But it also means it's a universal thing in any kind of language. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what language you speak whilst watching this show, this episode, because you'll be able to understand exactly what the robots are doing and thinking.
Almost like they were getting ready to target an international audience, maybe under like the Disney Corporation, something like that.
Not necessarily Disney, though. I know.
But yeah, shop window it. Yeah. I mean, there probably are quite a few languages where they don't use emojis the same way. Much in the same way that some cultures think that a thumbs up is offensive. Emojis don't always necessarily mean the same thing to all people. Some cultures, showing your teeth is considered threatening. For us, it's just smiling, and it's a nice thing. So even though emojis are meant to be universal, they're not necessarily. They're universal for British people, but so's rain.
I think the world over would understand what a aubergine emoji would be. Surely.
Well, it depends. There's
Possibly.
zucchinis in
I mean-
America, so
I do. So
I do.
yeah, there we go. See, universal.
I think a smile is universally recognised. A tear down the face is universally recognised.
That means you've killed someone. And that's what the teardrop's for.
You live in a very strange world, Dave.
Yes, I do.
Dave is not speaking from personal experience, honest gov.
No.
It was when. Is that not when Dave did that 2.5 years in Berlin?
Yep. I didn't
We
kill a
misheard,
person.
we just said Berlin, but yeah. Right.
Yeah, I didn't kill a person. Those people don't count. They're not real people. They don't count as persons.
Trump again.
I'm getting seriously worried at this point.
Yeah, nobody's seen Frank Cottrell Boyce for a couple of years, have they?
He's busy writing more
I'm
pash.
sure he's just gone on a long holiday. Okay, have we got any more on that particular point of Cameron's?
Well, I haven't.
Nah, I'm not.
Nope. Okay, Rods, nope. All happy?
No, on that one. Yep.
I wouldn't go as far as happy, but you know.
But all here. That's something at least. A couple of comments have come in, talking about Dave's comment about the doctor mind wiping the Vardy. Gareth Bowley asks important questions. How far do you wipe?
It's the hard hitting questions.
That is,
I
yeah,
just,
that's
I
why
just keep
people come
wiping
here.
and wiping and wiping until they're all gone.
Daniel Ronsley says, wait, the doctor's ethics are questionable. That's never happened before.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay, roughly about 20 minutes till the poll closes. Fraser Gregory has pointed out that the poll has been set to 3 hours after all, but we will close it in about 20 minutes time. We'll keep it to the normal 2 hours.
Who set it to 3 hours?
Don't know. No idea.
Who?
No idea.
Well,
Hunt
it wasn't
them down.
Was it
Sorry,
you?
Cameron, isn't it?
Wasn't me. No, I don't have the
This poll-
password to the
If
Twitter
this
account.
poll had closed early, I would have been accused of robbing votes from either side. Wouldn't have.
It's the
blame
AI going
would
mental
not be
again,
on
isn't it?
me. I'm thinking of you all.
Yep, it's that AI going mad. The machines are
Vardy's
taking
running the
over.
poll.
Yep, the Vardy's running the poll.
Okay, right. We've got time for another quick point if you want to chuck another one in. Dave,
I
you
will
want
chuck
to
one in.
to?
I will chuck one in.
Rod,
I can't believe we haven't discussed it yet. The
Well, let
look
Rod
of
go
this
first.
episode. This is a stunningly beautiful episode. How have we not talked about it? It boasts some of the best locations in the show. We start off with that fucking beautiful wheat field, which is in South Wales. I checked up where it was shot, in the Vale of Glamorgan, if you will, in the peak of summer. Looks absolutely stunning with the mottled blue sky and the TARDIS parked in the middle of that field of wheat. I was expecting Theresa May to be running up and down amongst the wheat fields, but I
Oh,
didn't spot
God.
her. I
Or
know
you
that
mean
would have
Rory
dragged
driving a car
that would have
around it?
dragged things down a bit. Mind you, if a Vardy had attacked her, I'd have been quite happy. But anyway, that looks beautiful. Then, of course, we go to Valencia. We go to the City of Arts and Sciences. And that gives this episode a really distinctive, unique, memorable look. And that contrasts again with the old spaceship when we go into that, which, of course, as every good Doctor Who episode should be, is shot in a power station. So I think we've got all those contrasts of different locations, which makes this episode look particularly stunning. Then, of course, you've got the Vardy and the design of the Vardy interfaces. Again, as evidence, I raise my little bot to you. And that's not a euphemism.
No euphemism.
They look fabulous. I absolutely love them. You think they're funny because they're small and cute. But then that shot with them all looking out of the colony windows, they look quite menacing at that point. It suddenly turns dark and menacing. I think Lawrence Goff does a really good episode, a really good job of this episode, pulling it together. Okay, he's not brilliant at the action sequences, I will give you that. But because we haven't got that many action sequences here, I think the rest of it he pulls together and it looks beautiful. And I mean, just one thing I'll pull out is the way those bones kind of fall to dust, and the way that you get a cloud of dust and they just shot out from the cloud of dispersal. It's a very distinctive death. And, you know, in Doctor Who, we love a good distinctive death to get the kids behind the sofa. So I think visually, this looks glorious.
A couple of small points about the field in the opening. It's actually a field of barley. It's not wheat. And it's far past.
Someone's been in the TARDIS wiki.
And it's far past the point where it needs pollinate. So that's all fucking wrong. Yes, it's a beautiful field. But it's a field.
Space wheat. It's space wheat. It looks like barley.
It just looks like barley.
Yeah.
We're on GM crops now, are we? Right then. And it does look nice. I'm not going to disagree with that at all. It does look really nice. The buildings are unique because they are real buildings. But the look of it sometimes is a bit like The Girl Who Waited. That nice architecture with the sunshine. It's a bit of that in there. So it's not completely unique to Doctor Who. The actual set, the location is unique and beautiful. I'm not going to disagree with that. But we've seen them in sunshine before. We've seen them in white buildings before. We've seen them.
Ban the colour white. How dare they reuse white?
But it's one of the tropes of science fiction. Let's go to a futuristic place. Oh, look, it's all white buildings with funky angles. That's science fiction. It's what you expect. Yes, they chose a really nice version of it. It's spectacular, but it's a science fiction trope that's white buildings in the future with funky angles.
And the problem with that being here is
that it's yet another thing that doesn't make this anything special. There's nothing massively special about this episode. Yes, it's really nice and pretty because they filmed it somewhere really nice and pretty. But they picked somewhere that looks like a sci-fi location because that's where you film sci-fi. And that's fine, but that's all it is fine. I mean, you say
grasping at the barley there.
You say they don't do action sequences well, and you're right. The action sequences aren't that great. There's a lot of special effects heavy action sequences, which aren't great for the actors to work with. And there's a fair bit of Scooby-Doo running. Much like in the pilot, there's a bit of Scooby-Doo running goes on where they go, right, we have to run at the TARDIS. Yoinks! And then they run at the TARDIS. And it's like, it's very Scooby-Doo again. We know there's a threat there because Old Man Jenkins got turned into a pile of bones. And then they run to the TARDIS. And then Shaggy has to explain to Scooby why he has to wait behind. And then he chases him anyway. And so, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Which is very much prosecuting with faint damning. Because, yeah.
There's a lot right. Doesn't sound that much of a prosecution,
right.
To be fair.
I was going to say the prosecution is faint, did you say?
No, the prosecution is being honest. I've told you things that I think are wrong with this, but I'm willing to say there's some things that aren't particularly wrong, but they're also not particularly right. So that's why I'm saying I'm not being harsh for harshness' sake. I'm being honest.
Okay. Honest governor.
We believe you.
They were dead when I found them, Your Honour.
There's a recurring theme here with Dave, isn't there?
There isn't there?
You've noticed.
I have.
Okay, well, Dave's prosecuted with faint damnation. Dave, why don't you give us a full fire and brimstone? Have you got another point for the prosecution to chuck in before we go to summings up?
Not massively, no. I've used most of them.
Okay.
Was that it?
Are you spent?
I am. I'm spent.
You're spent. Okay, right. Dave has nothing left in the tank. So let's go to Cameron. Have you got another point you want to chuck in before we go to summings up?
We haven't spoken about Ralph Little.
Let's do that now.
True.
So I'm gonna. Is it up to that? Hey, how often have we seen guest stars in Doctor who essentially can't really get away from the fact of who they are outside of Doctor Who. Some of them end up being full-blown companions. Catherine King! And it means just becoming fucking annoying. Ralph Little in this, you could... I don't think there's been many other roles where Ralph Little has gathered a gun together and then gone off to shoot space piranhas. And it's testament that you don't look at him and think, it's Ralph Little being Ralph Little. Because it's not. It's him convincingly playing a human settler on an alien planet.
But that's because he's now an actor. That's why he's playing a role.
But it's a very difficult thing for seemingly to do because not many guest stars in Doctor Who manage to do this in the modern era. It's always like they always come with this kind of like baggage of, that's them. They have to be like that. And Ralph Little in this doesn't get that.
But it's a long time since he was in 2 Pints of Lager. He is now a proper actor. He does Death in Paradise and things. So he knows how to act.
Sorry, I thought you said proper
But does he...
Death in Paradise in the same sentence.
Does not compute.
At any point in Death in Paradise, is he shooting space piranhas?
Yes.
This is going to be your defense for the rest of the series.
Distinctly said that he doesn't get a chance to be this in any other show he does.
I don't remember that episode of the Royal Family, to be fair, where they were attacked by space piranhas.
I think it's in the deleted scenes,
No.
Rod. I'm pretty sure
Chris is
just like, just going out on the street and blasting away. My ass! No, that's not even his character. I don't know. I never watched the Royal Family. I thought it was shite, but
Cam. You just slagged off Catherine. How can I be on the same side as you?
There's a schism in the defence.
Tate and the Royal Family.
Split.
I've waited to the late stages.
I don't think there's that many people that guest star on Doctor Who that really can't shake off a previous role. I mean, you have Blake Harrison in the Flux series, who played Neil in The In-Betweeners. I mean, point taken, you look at him, you can't really see anybody but Neil from The In-Betweeners in space.
Exactly.
But there's loads of other guest stars that have had significant roles in comedies or sitcoms or other dramas that star in the new series of Doctor Who that you don't think that of. These are just like one or two exceptions to that.
But it's like, you look at him when he first pops up and you go, it's Ralph Little, but then that kind of feeling just like fades away. He's really good. What I'm saying essentially, he's a really good guest star because he can act and he does really, really well with what he's got, without having to rely on being, he's the guest star in this episode.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not Columbo. It's not like every time you see...
No, because Doctor Who, isn't it?
Yeah, but like fucking... Oh, look, it's got Ralph Little.
Why are we doing Columbo?
Because you always knew in Columbo who the killer was because it was the big guest star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you see
was
Ralph Little.
Was it ever Catherine Tate?
No, because she wasn't a big star then, and she isn't now anymore. Surprisingly.
But wasn't even born then.
Since she's crap.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've lost Rod. You've lost Rod as well, Dave. I mean, you might have
we lost him
this evening, but that's the final nail in the coffin there.
Just
I think.
took me over the edge.
But I don't know how the fact that they've hired an actor to do a job and he's believable doing the job is a point for the defence.
I think. Can I back away from this point?
I think both the sides are currently in this late stage of the game, scraping the bottom of the barrel. That's all I will say.
I thought it couldn't go lower than Dave's, but Cam. Yes. There's an actor in Doctor Who can act. Not sure.
Yes. I'm just saying, but it's not like he's there just because he's a guest. He's a big name.
Just leave it. Just leave it.
Okay.
Just walk away.
Okay, I'm walking away. I'm backpedaling
Okay.
now.
Before we batter through the thin veneer at the bottom of the barrel right through into daylight, let's just go to the comments that we've had in. One from Daniel Ronsley who says, Peter Falk would have been an amazing Doctor Who guest star.
He probably
would
be a
have
good
to argue with
doctor as
that.
well.
Yeah, aye. If it was
Oh, aye, yeah.
He's run along the classic series then. Peter Falk would probably be the Troughton, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fantasy casting aside, I think it's probably time we go to the summings up to round off the trial. So one last pitch to the audience to convince them of your argument. Rod, do you want to give us your summing up of why Smile is not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who, please?
I haven't heard a thing here tonight that makes me change my opinion that this is a well-crafted story. It's a good, standalone, interesting mystery that continually develops and changes. It has a great dynamic between the Doctor and the new companion as they learn more about each other and they learn more about the situation that they're in. I think it looks beautiful. It's got great dialogue, great guest cast. Thank you, Cam. I'll swift over that one very quickly. But I don't see what's not to love. There's an interesting story at the heart of this. So, yeah, what's not to love?
Okay. Dave, do you want to give us your sum up of the prosecution? Why is Smile guilty of crimes against Doctor Who?
Because it's bland. It's nothing. The bad guys aren't particularly that bad. The humans aren't particularly interesting, and they're not in it often. Yeah, there's great scenes with the Doctor and the companion, but that's the same as always true. This was written by a guy who is great at writing stories based on the lives and viewpoints of young people, and there's no fucking young people in it. There's a bunch of Scooby-Doo running about, same as there was in the pilot. There's so much heavy exposition in this, just beating people over the head with, this is how it works. And we don't need to do that. Let us come to our own conclusions. It's shot in a traditional sci-fi style. It basically looks the same as Logan's Run half the time. And at the end of it all, the Doctor fixes the problem by just resetting it with his sonic screwdriver. So all of the story is, meh, it's pointless. And all these people have died, and then the Doctor commits genocide. But you still don't really care. Because it's just blah. And that's the problem. It's just bland and nothing. And that's why it's guilty of crimes against Doctor Who.
Okay, strong summing up. Cam, one final time round. Let's have your summing up as to why Smile is not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who.
Not guilty, my lad, of crimes against Doctor Who, because as I said previously, it's a lovely smattering of bits of classic Doctor Who and certain stories blended together like a fine, fine whiskey. There's an examination of at the core of Doctor Who as to why the Doctor never walks away from these situations. It incorporates the sign on the TARDIS into the actual plot itself. Assistance will be provided. The ending, as I've said already this evening, it's about making the ability to make mistakes, admit your mistakes, and start again afresh. And if that's not a universal thing to like spread in a powerful message to spread across all of Doctor Who, then I don't know what is. Not guilty, my lads. Not guilty.
Okay, there you go then. That's the summings up for the prosecution and defence. It is now entirely in the hands of you, the viewers. So we've got a few minutes left to run in the poll, after which we'll close it. And when we come back, we will reveal the results of the Smile poll. So we've probably got a couple of minutes left before we shut the poll down. We're going to have a quick break. We'll let the poll run out. We'll round up the results. And when we come back, we will have the result as whether Smile is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. We'll see you in a few minutes' time. And we're back. That is it. The poll has closed. It is time, after 2 hours of fractious debate, to find out whether Smile is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. Here is how you, the viewers, have voted. There you have it. Smile is guilty of crimes against Doctor Who by 62% to 38%. It's a rare guilty. Well done, Dave. You've won. It's now 2-1 in the series. You must be delighted.
If I must. I'm slightly surprised.
Well,
because I thought it'd be closer than that, but I am quite happy, yes.
I was fully expecting Dave to go another like Doctor Who fans like Doctor Who shock horror moment. But no, here we are.
Turns out some Doctor Who fans hate Doctor Who. Both
Yeah.
are valid.
Who'd have thought it? What a weird mindset to have.
What a disgrace.
Daniel Bronsley asks a very important question. He says, which emoji best describes the mood of the defence now?
I think the poo emoji at this stage.
Two big steaming turds, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I was going to post it into the chat there, Daniel.
Wow.
There we go. Defence, you must be gutted because at various points you seem to think that woman was in the bag for you.
Well, excuse me. What gave you that?
In your role as defence, you had to be positive towards it. Surely you must have thought it was going to get
I feel that the judge is, well, you have to entertain the possibility it's getting off, but the judge is making it sound like we were walking at this courtroom tonight with an air of confidence that seemed unwarranted.
Well, apparently it was unwarranted.
It was, yeah.
We do not take this lightly.
Absolutely.
We do not take this as, we do not gate frivolity in this.
Nobody's suggesting that you're coasting it. I'm just saying, in your role as defence, you must have been confident that it was going to be found not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who.
Well, we certainly hoped it would.
Yeah, and when Dave went full Trump, I did think he'd lost it there for the prosecution. But clearly the audience liked the Trumpism. So what can I say?
Yep, like Trumpism. Yep, there you go.
Maybe that's key from now on, Dave. Next episode, if you just threaten to build a wall, then 2-2, and then just go from there. Just go the full hog, blame China for everything.
Yeah,
coast to victory.
That's it. That's what to do.
He's actually going to have some serious thought.
Yeah. No, I was actually thinking that our next one, there is actually a line where Bell says, a lot more black people in London than I thought. I could go full Trump with that line. I'm fucking gonna.
There you go.
They're all Mexicans.
We're kicking those big snakes out our country. Back to Mexico or wherever it is they live. So there we go then. Guilty by 62% to 38%. Win for Dave, 2-1 in the series to Cameron, so Dave's clawed one back. Rod, thanks very much for joining us for this tonight.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
While you're here, do you want to give a plug to your podcast? On you go.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Please listen to Strictly Come Hamster every 2 weeks as Joe and I and a series of guests trot our way through the whole Doctor Who canon. Basically, it's the antidote to the DWM poll because we both thought that Heaven Sent should not have won that poll and is not reflective of what the wider community thinks. So we're doing our attempt to try and find out what the Ham Fam think is the best Doctor Who story of all time. And Heaven Sent was sent rolling very early on. So yeah. It'll be running for a bit longer. Yeah, we're just under halfway there. But yeah, we will ultimately be crowning the best Doctor Who story of all time.
One of which will be The Hand of Fear, as was rightfully decided in our episode. Isn't that right, Rod?
Absolutely.
Better than Talons. By miles. All these naysayers on Twitter. Yeah, you're wrong.
We have some unique winners along the way, I think it's fair to say.
You say unique winners, you mean baffling decisions.
Well, that's what people may say, yeah.
So there we go. We'll put a link up on Twitter after this episode goes out tomorrow with a link to Strictly Come Hamster. It's a very entertaining, if exceedingly long listen most of the time. Then
It is.
you're really talking to Polis Box. So you know.
Absolutely.
It is bloody good fun. Bloody good fun. Having been on it, I can say it's damn fun.
Good. Thank you.
Next time, Fortnight Tonight, we'll be joined by this man who's putting up on screen. It's Daniel Ronsley. He says, valiant case nonetheless, well done, Rod and Cam. Daniel will be joining us for the trial of Thin Ice, which is the next story to go before the courtroom. That's a fortnight tonight on the 29th of August at 8 p.m. right here on YouTube. That's it for tonight's Smile, Guilty of Crimes Against Doctor Who. We'll see you in a fortnight. From all of us, good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night, folks.